This is the Source Podcast, where cold mornings, screaming bull elk, and bent rods turn into legends told. Hosted by Nate Zielinski and brought to you by Jiffy Ice Fishing, we go beyond tags and trophies, into the grind, the heartbreak, and the moments that keep us coming back for more. If it bugles, if it bites, if it lives wild, it's Sourced. Lock in.
Welcome to the Source Podcast. I am your host, Nate Zielinski. The Source Podcast is officially brought to you by Jiffy Ice Fishing. As always, we keep talking about the brand new Jiffy Ice Fishing and what it is. Again, over the past year or so, we have switched from Jiffy Ice Drills to Jiffy Ice Fishing, bringing in the entire gamut of ice fishing. And I'll tell you what, the base camp models and everything that we're doing with ice camping is incredible. So a huge thanks to Jiffy for bringing you the Source Podcast. Hey, today we have got an awesome episode, something that's near and dear to my heart. We are going to talk about food. We're talking about meat. We're talking about hunting and the crazy things that come along with it. I've got an amazing friend of mine, and more so, there's a national known business name concept called Steve's Meat Market. This place draws in hunters, musicians, everybody from all over the country comes to Arvada, Colorado to Steve's Meat Market, and I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Steve in studio with me. How you doing, Steve?
No, I'm not doing as well as the intro. Tell you what, though, thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. I mean, when we talk about this, you started it and created Steve's Meat Market, which again, it's a legacy name, right? I know that you don't want to necessarily hype yourself up that much, but it's the truth. I mean, I've pulled in and had again tour buses waiting there to drop off meat, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I think that was probably Josh Groban.
Yep,
he was dropping off something there. We've had a lot of famous people come in, and it's a blessing. I felt lucky. I started it 1989 is when I bought the old building in Old Town Arvada.
Yep.
I had started off at Smokies before then, and it was just a passion for food.
Yep.
And that's what drove me, and I enjoy it. And still, I'm not there anymore. My daughter bought the company out from me, but I still make sausage at home.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was a passion.
Yep.
So it was a demanding job with. It got to be so huge at the end. I mean, I believe one of the last years we were compiling, what I made, we'd made like 92 tons of sausage.
92 tons. All right, so hear that. Again, we're talking about meat processing. This is wild game processing, right? To where hunters, gather their game, harvest their game, they bring it into the processor, and you make, when you stopped, how many different custom products are like burger, steaks, roasts, jerky, sticks, 50-something?
I don't know if it's that high, but it was a lot. It was a lot demanding, and you still create things.
Yep.
And that's the passion for it that got me there. Yeah. I just love doing it.
Absolutely. And just to reference the numbers, 92 tons of sausage that last year you're processing. That's insane.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
we were running. Well, I think I had somewhere around 25, 28 employees.
Yeah.
And the guys are fast.
Yep.
With their knives. They can debone an animal quick like that. They get paid by the pound.
Yeah.
So they're good, and the work was good, and the demand. It really got overwhelming. I think it was about 2005. That I was going to close.
Okay.
And my friend owned the building next door. And Karen and I were sitting there one night because I would get there in the morning, 4 o'clock. There was lines, and people were trying to draw numbers. We'd have them pick a number out of a bucket. You didn't get in, and people would come 2-3 days trying to get in, and it was ridiculous. Yep. It was the hardest part of the business. It wasn't how to make sausage, how to cut an animal. It was how to contend with the people, the customers, and they would draw these numbers, and they would show up before the sun come up, and we might give them number 56. They might be in 4 o'clock that evening, and they spent the whole day trying to get in. So Brad knocked on the window, come in, and I said, I'm thinking of closing, because I said, we're only taking a small percentage of the people that want to come in.
Yeah.
And for me to relocate, it was impossible. Yep. The zoning, I was grandfathered in there.
The fridges, just everything.
Exactly, and like I say, they're grandfathered in. They probably have a 9-foot ceiling in them.
Okay.
And nowadays, if you were to build a walk-in cooler, you'd have to have a 12-foot ceiling.
Okay.
It didn't. If I needed to move across the street, it would have been millions.
Yep.
And so I told her, I said, it's just too demanding. And he said, well, maybe I'll sell you my building. So we own 2 buildings there where you walk into the other one. And, it's a total of 10,000 square feet now. And Amy doesn't do the volume I did. It became it was demanding.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's just it.
Scott's still with Amy. He was with me over 30 years. And when I'd call in his hours, he'd get 105 hours a week.
100 hours a week.
Yeah, so when I'd call in, I'd say, well, he's got 40 straight time and he's got 65 OT.
Yep.
They're like, well, are you kidding? And a lot of people, that's why they work there, though. They could make good money in a short period of time. And so I was there more hours than him.
Yeah.
And so
that's it. Just big business. And I think that's the coolest part of it. That's what we wanted to talk to you about, because you've seen it all, right?
Oh.
And I mean, when you have that name, that's the biggest thing. So, we're talking about this, and people might even be like, what are meat processor? What's the concept? And probably my favorite conversation when it comes to this, particularly you, because you handled all my meat for the past 30 years, when you live on it, right? And I truly live on wild game. So between my family and I, we're in the ratio of 12 to 16 animals. So 12 to 16 kills a year. We're processing 1,000 pounds of meat a year, and we live on it. And when you do that, and I'm not saying that at-home thing's not popular, guys do it and it's cool. I love it. Go home and cut your meat if that's what you're into. But for me, we eat it every single day. Every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When you do it that much, you can't eat the same burger grind every day.
Yeah, you need a variety.
You need a variety. So, we have all the salamis and all the sausages that, kids bring for their lunch. We bring, hot dogs, brats. We have 4 different kinds of sticks that my kids bring to school for lunch. I eat it when I'm guiding. We have all the jerky. You have all the Italian. So, when you have, myself personally, I do about 14 different, custom products from you.
Right.
When I have that, you can eat it every day, and it doesn't get overwhelming. It's the same as going to the grocery store. I come down to my shop, open the freezer, between the breakfast sausage and this and that, we have it all. So it's the same for me as going to the store or going to a butcher, because I have so many variety cuts. If I do it myself, I can't do that. It would be too overwhelming with spices and seasonings and the fat content I'm adding in. It's just not something that would be normal in my world to produce 14, 16 different cuts.
Yeah, if I gave you guys recipes, I said, this is how you make a teriyaki stick.
Yep.
That sausage stuffer that stuffs that sticks, back in the days, was $75,000. Yeah. I think it's 140, 150,000.
Just to shove it in.
Because it's a machine that will stuff it.
Yep.
And a lot of the products I didn't make in the beginning because I was using a Zuber water stuffer, which is a great stuffer, but it can't do the forcefulness it takes to make a good stick without smearing the product.
Yep.
So when you go home, you can't make it.
That's just it.
The grind. The sausage plates. We throw away knives on our grinders weekly because they have to be sharp. Otherwise, you're smearing. I watch a lot of videos, and you'll see guys doing it at home. Yeah, and it's not making a clean cutting motion.
Oh, I believe.
And so therefore your hamburger, you'll eat your burger, or you say, oh, I'm going to go down to the grocery store and get 2 pounds of beef fat and make my hamburger. But when you eat that burger, you get tallow or grease on the roof of your mouth.
Yep.
And it's not good. So you got to buy good fat.
Yep.
Well, the grocery stores, you could get kidney fat years ago because they did sides of beef.
Okay.
But if you go to a grocery store now, most of it's cut at the warehouse, like King Soopers Warehouse or Safeways. So these guys at the grocery store, a lot of it's prepackaged.
Okay.
And they take it out.
Just chunks fat.
They do very little cutting there because it's all about the dollar.
Yeah.
So you really can't even get, if you do it at home, where are you going to get beef tallow?
That's it. Good quality, for sure.
It's got to be the kidney suet that hangs on the inside of the beef, because that's a good fat.
Okay.
You can't take a brisket, trim it off, and make a hamburger out of it.
There's just so much to it. And that's why we do it, and that, then if you eat it every day, you want your family to eat it every day particularly, this is where it helps to have that kind of thing. And, I hear the argument too, not to go down tangents of supporting the processor, but I'm so into it. People will be like, oh, but it's expensive to do, a processor versus doing it myself. I'm like, go to the grocery store and look at what a pound of anything costs. Go buy a bag of jerky at the gas station. Even going to the highest quality processor and paying, you're still pennies on the dollar compared to a store. You know what I mean?
Right. It's
just
unbelievable.
Crazy. Everything about it.
I mean, if you took a pack of jerky from the store and you look at it, maybe it's an ounce and a half, and you're paying $12.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. You multiply it out, and you're like, wow, it costs so much.
That's it. I mean, that's just it.
But the quality that you're getting, even if you take an elk, and just say, I want burger. I don't want nothing but burger.
Yep.
You end up with 100 pounds of burger. Go down to the store now and try and price.
Organic quality.
Oh, that stuff is probably
burger.
$11-12 a pound.
Yeah.
I mean, I just made some ground chuck burger from the store. I bought it myself, and you're like at $7.99 a pound for chuck, and you got to grind it.
That's it.
I enjoy doing that. But the wild game, I went to school at Ames University for a sausage course, and they were talking about how they commercially make sausage, and they were trying to turn out hot dogs for very inexpensive because they're shipping them out of the country. And the product, the quality and the protein is so low, they have to induce salt just to work up a protein. Because he was saying how many minutes it takes to mix it. And I said, well, my sausage has good protein in about a minute of mix. He goes, that's impossible. And he said, what are you making? And I says, wild game. He goes, well, there you go.
Okay.
He goes, you got solid red meat that's high in protein. And therefore, it's like, I make breakfast sausage for myself at home out of pork, straight pork butts. The wild game tastes better.
Yep.
It has more flavor. There's more character. And if you take, I'm sure your kids have been raised on nothing but elk burger. And if they go buy a hamburger, they're like, ugh.
It's so funny. We go to like friends' house, right? And they eat, and they're like, they kind of chew slow, and they're like, what is this? They're just so foreign to them.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Once you get tuned into it.
You think about my kids. I mean, they've been raised literally from the time they could eat on wild game. It's all they ever know, and it's how our world lives.
Right, and it's so good for you.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes it really a value.
Yeah.
I mean, you might sit down and say it's a lot of money to have an elk processed, but let's just start.
Yeah.
I got an $82,000 truck, $2,000 gun. I'm paying $2,500 trespass fee.
Yeah.
and it's not a cheap man's. It's sad. I'm 73 now, and you used to be able to knock on a door. Or help the farmer out a little bit, but that's so much changed anymore.
Oh, it has. No,
it's
all changing.
Yeah, it's more like Europe. It's just like pay to play. About everywhere.
No,
I was talking to a friend yesterday. When I used to go to Wyoming years ago, there's a little voucher on the tag, and you give it to the farmer, and the state would reimburse him $5 or $10, and they'd come on. Can we hunt? Yeah, how many tags you got? Just put the vouchers in my mailbox. And I seen the very ranch that I hunted on. It wasn't long, and then he said, hey, I'm going to charge $25 trespass fee now. And that was the beginning of it. And then it just got what was too much for one guy. The next guy was happy to pay $25,
that's just it.
$50, $100, and
we've been having those conversations right now just in Colorado. And again, not to go off on it, but we used to draw the tags and we used to get vouchers for cheap. And now it's like, holy cow, what a voucher costs is what we used to pay for guided hunts, you know what I mean? Or charge for guided hunts. So it's just crazy. But all right, so I want to hear some stories. But before that, I want to talk a little bit more on the processing side. I want to talk about volume, so I want people to understand, like you said, 92 tons of sausage. I remember one point in time we were fishing together, and you were all about like the skins for the sausage or the brats or the Germans, or you had to go get like skins, and it was like
casings.
a mile or miles. Like what? How much of that volume would you go through? Like,
I've lost touch with that. I mean, it's like the teriyaki sticks when they come in. That's like a 100-foot piece of collagen now. And we find that the collagen works a lot lot better. It took a real knack to run natural
Okay.
sticks. Like when we make breakfast sausage, that's like a 19 millimeter
Okay.
synthetic casing.
Yep.
But it's got the same snap to it all the time.
Yep.
It always does. And when you make breakfast sausage out of natural, you're going to use lamb casings.
Okay.
And they're so small and so delicate.
Yeah.
You put them on and they're tearing and they're extremely expensive. And it took a real knack. I mean, it took you a while to be a master sausage maker.
I mean, that's it. It's so funny you say that, but like, I'll talk to Amy or people at the meat market, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're running the machine today." I'm like, why are you running the machine? Why isn't somebody else? They're like, "You don't know how hard it is. Like, it is an art to run some of those machines."
It is. It takes a lot of skill, and there's so much to gather there. I was really surprised when she wanted to take it over because it's so many years of animals come in. Most of them in a good condition, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Was it shot yesterday? Was it shot 7 days ago? Because people would say, like, I want you to hang my deer for a week. Well, if it's been hanging for 3 days at 70 degrees, we're already trying to beat the clock.
Yes.
And we don't know the condition of it.
Yep.
So we're not in an environment that I can say everything can hang for 14 days before we get to it. Because some of the animals come in, and it turns into an argument. But it's we were lucky because we had such a volume. I never had to take in a questionable animal.
That's it.
And a lot of times they call me. You got to come. This guy doesn't want to hear it from anybody but you.
Yep.
And I mean, one of the easiest ways is on the hind legs. You just split it apart and go through that hind socket.
Yep.
When you separate it, it'll have green to it.
Yep.
And they'll be like, or the outside's bad. They'll say, well, can you cut the bad? You can't cut the bad off.
No.
If an animal's
Once it's
rotten,
bad,
he's rotten clear to the bone.
Yep.
If he's bone soured,
Yep.
it's there. So, care of the meat.
That's probably one of my favorite things, just to interrupt on it. My favorite things about the meat market is the comments and the times that I, almost get yelled at defending you. I'll be random place. They'll be like, I can't stand Steve's Market. They rejected my meat. And I am like, thank goodness. And people get so mad. And I'm like, I don't want that meat near mine. You know what I mean? I'm like, mine's in there. And it's one of those things that people get so mad, but it's like, when they're mad, they should be thanking you, right? Because if they took yours, they take other people's. Nobody wants that. And you hear stories quite often of people getting turned away, but that's a part of hunting. You have to take care of your game.
Well, and I think that they truly tried to. They didn't go through all of that to come to me to hear no.
Yeah.
I mean, they packed it out of the woods. They done whatever. It's the silliest things. I had a guy come in with an antelope in a cooler.
Yeah.
Opening day, so I know it wasn't that old.
Yeah.
We opened it up, and it's like, whoa. And it was a big Yeti. That's 120 quart.
Yeah.
The whole antelope was in there with the hide. He gutted it. With the hide. He gutted it, stuck it in the cooler, and closed the lid.
Turned it into an oven.
It was like a cocoa in a thermos mug.
Yeah.
It stayed warm. And I opened it up, and I'm like, holy moly, And he goes, well, geez. Yeah, he had a nice cooler, and he went through the effort, and he drove down from Craig as fast as he could.
Yep.
With a rotten animal because he didn't cool it.
Yep.
Even if you skin, I mean, by myself, I'll do a boneless method,
Yep.
and that's what I do now. Most of the time I'm hunting with somebody, but I have in the last few years gone by myself when I shouldn't have.
Yep.
But then I just do the skinless method.
Yep.
Because, man, even if it's hot and you take the hide off, you see the heat just dissipate.
Yep.
It goes away so nice.
That's it. No, and I quarter everything. We talk this all the time. I'll really be in a situation, a pronghorn hunt, where I can drive my truck right to the animal, and I still quarter it. And everybody's like, why are you quartered? I'm like, what else am I supposed to do with it? It won't fit in my cooler, if it's not quartered. And I want that separation. And I mean, I watched a guy literally harvest an elk, and we were pulled back, and we were at a deep freeze, and he just started stacking the meat. And I'm like, hey, that's going to rot. And he goes, what do you mean? I'm like, it's in my deep freeze.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to separate them. Like, you put all four there, like,
Yes.
it'll be 5-6 days before the cold actually reaches that inner side where all that's together. And people don't realize it. It's like I mean, it's like insulated practically, that meat. You know, if you stack it all together, I mean, it's a dense product. It takes forever to get that cold. You got to separate stuff out and take care of it for sure.
My plant was a locker plant where years ago people used to rent little storage lockers, and there was another processor up in Arvada, and he didn't have any freezer. So he would cut your animal up, grind it, paper wrap it, then he'd call you and you had to pick it up, and they would come down there and they say, I need a locker. And I'm like, the meat's fresh. It's bloody. And they go, I'm going to put it in there. Well, if you lock the door and turn it, boom, it's going to be bad when they come back to take it back out. And so I'd tell them, I think at the time I charged them $5 or $10, and I would lay it on a wire rack.
Okay.
And then it would get
some air around it,
and it would freeze. Then I would pack it in there for them.
Yeah.
And it was accidentally that I used to saran wrap and then double paper wrap.
Okay.
And then I vacuum sealed something, and I went back in there, and it's like 4 hours later, it was froze. And the paper wrap stuff, when we used to paper wrap, I would put bags all over the place in there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, our freezer's 75 feet long.
Yeah.
And I would have to go in there about midnight before I would go home, and I took every bag and turn it over because the blood was starting to seep down.
Yep.
So when I flipped it over, it would turn and it would go back the other direction.
Okay.
And so that it would freeze like this. So the paper, it was good for insulator, but it was insulating it against freezing.
Yep.
So
that.
If you go home, if you try to process at home. You got to do it gingerly. You know, you're going to have to put layers in and think about what you're doing.
There's so much to it.
My cooler, like my antelope cooler and stuff, I've built little wooden racks with spacers.
Yep.
And then I bring these gel packs, and I'll put gel pack in my little rack, and then a hind leg, front leg, then another rack.
Yep.
Freezer ice.
You got to do.
And do that. And then it has a chance.
Yeah.
And people
get the air around and get a cold.
Game bags. Game bags are wonderful, except when they open it up, they're stacking meat in there for an hour, and the flies are like, "Hey, buffet's on," and then they grab it and tie it up, and then they come to me and you open it up, and it's just like, oh my God, fly eggs everywhere. Oh. The game bag works if you keep the flies out.
Yep.
But if you tie them in there, they're just happy.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
And you're sad.
Locked in the candy store.
Things you see. I had a lady brought a buffalo down from an Indian tribe. I think it was in South Dakota. And they charged her about $3,500 to shoot this buffalo. Okay. They came with a front end loader, picked it up, gutted it, shoved it in the truck. She closed the camper topper, drove to town, spent the night, and then came the next day. And when we opened it up, I mean, it's like, whoa, I won't take this.
Yeah.
You know, she goes, what am I supposed to do? And I goes, well, I ain't going to take a buffalo out and throw it in the dumpster. I mean, that would really look bad. They'd say, look at I'm in Steve's and all this silly stuff. I mean, actually to go off, but the police come because somebody had shot a bear, skinned it out. Well, you know how the fingers look.
Oh, yeah, bears look just like a human.
So we got the bones in there, and somebody turned us in and said, hey, I went by this meat market. I think there's a person in the dumpster, and it was the bare knuckles. It looks
just like a person, absolutely.
But so they did make it right with her. She actually took her buffalo and discarded it, and then drove back up and talked to the tribe. And they, I mean, it's like, come on. You got to break a buffalo down.
Absolutely.
I've had buffalo come from Lyman that were bad. And I tell people, if you're going to go shoot a bison out here at one of these game farms, put a couple of pallets in your trailer. Skin it. Make sure the guy's going to skin it and quarter for you. But on the hump, usually that vertebrae on the back's about 14 inches thick.
Okay.
Take a knife and just go alongside the bone real tight, and then it'll open up, and it'll because that's a huge mass of
absolutely.
meat. And they'll go bad. So, and you're paying top
money.
buffaloes. Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to jump in and just ask a quick question as we're talking about just like poor game meat, right? I think there's taking care of your game meat, but then there's the other side of it. Like somebody could take care of it perfectly. There's still concerns like CWD. And I'm curious how CWD has affected the business of your market, or just in general, how you've been handling it for conversations that you get along those lines.
When it came out, it was a scary thing. I mean, it hit you in the face like this. It's like, oh my God, you eat this. Well, if you go back years and years, Amy and I went to 4 different states to around 33 seminars. And I mean, it was in the books in California 100 years ago, where they took deer that were starving to death. I mean, you gave them food, you gave them water, and they starved to death. And it's a neurological issue.
Yeah.
That's that. In human, it's called new variant Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease.
Okay.
And that's when it attacks our nervous system. But it'd be like eating an animal that had cancer. Are you going to get cancer? No, it doesn't work that way. So it came back to, I think the incubation period that they felt for an animal to test positive was around 16 to 18 months before it would test positive. So let's say you went out and shot a yearling animal that was 12 months old. It might have CWD, and you could test it, and you say it's negative, but you ate it and it was positive. And the thing is it would have surely come to surface
by now,
somehow, somewhere in the last 100 years, that this was attacking us. And I mean, Colorado went at it crazy. I mean, they went up to the northwest corner and said, we're going to kill all the deer so they don't transmit. Well, if you're going to kill all the deer because you don't want them to die, it's like, well, where did this go? I believe Wyoming at the time said, no, we're not going to take that approach. And they found that there's actually animals that can don't get it. You know, it's like the gene pool. So if you were killing every animal, you might be killing off those animals as well.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think now we've gotten to a point where we've researched it a lot more, and we know that it's nowhere near the prion disease that like mad cow is, or something that actually can transfer to humans. So I mean, a big stink in the beginning, and I still think, like Steve Rinella talks about it a lot on his podcast. Like he's like, you know, having the choice of eating a CWD positive deer or not. Most of us are going to choose to not eat it.
But granted, in the beginning, we had a lot, housewives were like, hey, what are they going to do? And so I said, well, how do you sanitize against this stuff? And it was something like to kill the prions on the cutting board. If it was there, if they found the prions, it was like 1800 degree water. I mean, like, you can't Hotsy won't even produce that kind of water. And could you imagine being in the building? It's 1800 degrees. I mean, my employees are falling over like dead flies. And so how do you sanitize against it? And, I mean, it was, we used to cut the heads, the racks off for guys that just wanted the skull cap, and then we said, well, you have to pay $3 because I got to throw the saw blade away afterwards and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was sleepless nights. I really thought it would, and it
didn't work that big of a deal.
No, it worked its way through. And I think that there was a lot that the anti-hunters jumped on. And thought, like, hey, if we can scare them into not eating this, they won't kill it no more. They won't hunt it and stuff. And
the politics behind it always. No, thanks for that answer. I agree with a lot of your points. The other thing, you were talking about a buffalo. This is my last question, then I'll let you guys have at it. But what is like the wildest animal that showed up in Steve's meat market? We're obviously deadlocked here in Colorado, so we're used to like the deer and the elk and pronghorn and occasionally some of these other hard to draw tags. But what's maybe the craziest thing you've seen show up in your shop?
God, I mean, I really don't. I get the occasional. We got wild pigs. We get some caribou and things that'll come in that are not indigenous to the state of Colorado, but I can't really think of anything.
Many high fence like zebras or any?
No. I did do some ostrich. Emus. And they're weird.
They are weird.
I mean, they're just when you skin an ostrich, it's just like two legs and thighs. You got legs and thighs. There ain't no breast. It's like a weird thing. What was that thing that Ryan was going to go shoot up on? Is one of them goofy cows. It was running around on Guanella Pass.
Okay.
Those
Like a yak or a Highlander?
Yeah, it was a yak, and he comes back and he goes, there was a yak in the road. He goes, I'm gonna go shoot it. And I go, you can't shoot it. He goes, oh yeah, if you see it out there and it's not an indigenous animal that you need a tag for, you could kill it. And I go, no, it's somebody's yak. I said, don't be bringing it back here.
Oh, that's crazy. All right, so as we talk about, crazy thing we've processed, you've seen more crazy animals. We talked about this last year, right? And this is Mother Nature. And I mean, as we talk about this, again, this is not like humans doing things. This is what you see in the wild. We talked, I brought in a bull last year. We were hunting with a buddy, and we brought in a bull that had some crazy stuff. I mean, you see wounds, right? I mean, we had a bull last year that had 2 muzzleloader wounds and a bullet hole, and was killed with a rifle. So that was the 4th hit. I mean, I've seen animals we had an animal that was a big bull that was fully live and well that had an arrow in its backstrap. So a frontal shot
that survived.
Survived it with a full length 30-inch arrow in its back. I mean, it looked like it was several years old. You know what I mean? But you had a picture that you showed me of an animal with like a bone in its mouth.
It had the shoulder blade. It was a mule deer, and he'd been evidently chewing on this shoulder blade.
Chewing on a bone.
I can't understand a deer chewing on a bone.
Dog.
And his lower jaw had gone through the shoulder blade, and then it got attached. Once it clicked over his teeth,
T-boned.
Couldn't get it off. And I don't know what the customer done. I know he was going to leave it like that somehow. And you see the craziest things. I had a guy come in from 461, opening day muzzleloader, and he comes in and it's foul. It stinks, And they called me, and I said, this thing's just rotten. He goes, it's opening day. I just shot it, and it looked healthy. We cut around a little bit, and it's all green in the hind leg. And he'd been hit with the broadhead.
Okay.
My buddy was an outfitter. They snuck over a ridge top one day, and there's a bull just turned and looked at him. Didn't even get up, and he's like, shoot.
Yeah.
And he shot him, and they went over, and it was like a bloodhound. His hide was loose.
Just loose.
Yeah, and everything. And he said, what is this? And so he says, it doesn't look very good, but we got to take the meat.
Yeah.
And they boned him out, and the guy goes, oh, can I get the ivories, And when he opened his mouth, there was a broadhead stuck in the roof of the mouth. So my 2 cents worth is the bull was probably bugling, bow hunter pulled back, and that's what he was looking at, was this bull screaming at him, shot him right in the roof of the mouth. I mean, that thing probably turned around and looked and said, please shoot me. I'm done for. I mean, his tongue was all lacerated.
I've heard stories, I've never seen it, of bulls trying to pull arrows out and getting stuck. Yeah. I had a buddy that had a clean harvest. He got the bull, but when he got to the site where the bull was laying, the arrow was in his mouth. So it had passed through most of the way, and the bull actually leaned back to get it.
Yeah.
And grabbed it in its mouth when it fell and it jammed through. I mean, It was on video. They have video of the arrow perfectly behind the shoulder, and when they go pick it up, it's like in his mouth, to where the bull is reaching around.
My son was boning out a deer. And in the hind section where the 3 muscle groups come together, he was separating them, and boom, he hits glass, safety glass. And so evidently that thing had jumped, hit a car window, either the side window or the windshield or something, and it must have exploded his leg, and the windshield, this glass was wad.
In the animal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fair amount of glass in there. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
And arrows, I've seen arrows that hit an elk in his rib, and it's stuck in the far side rib, and then it's formed calcification, like a cone. I mean, it's like it's got curvature to it. It's just sculpted.
Tougher than nails.
Yeah. Well, that.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people, the guy told me, he goes, if an elk's on his back and his feet are moving, shoot again.
Absolutely.
Because he said once he gets them underneath him,
they're gone.
It's gone.
I always say the same thing. Yeah, until there's no movement, you just keep going because they're tough.
Yeah.
But I mean, so a bone across the mouth, glass in them. What else have you seen? I mean, that's crazy to me, thinking about glass from a vehicle,
Yeah. No, I mean, the main thing is the care and the lack of care. That's it's heartbreaking because, like I said, these guys don't go through all this effort.
Yeah.
I seen some guys brought in 3 cow elk. They all had the hides on them. But they were up in 201, I believe, and it was a late hunt. It was super cold, and they shot 3 elk out of a herd, which is no big deal. They went and they gutted them all, and they put the 1 elk in the bottom, then the 2 elk on top, kind of all spread them all out and everything. They come into the market the next day. The shanks are frozen. We can't even hardly get a knife in them. You know, the top 2 are like frozen. We get to the bottom one, and it stunk. It was rotten.
Yep.
And because of the believe it or not, the axle, the differential in a truck, puts off a lot of heat. And
really?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I had a guy come in from New Mexico, and he shot an elk on a ranch. You know, they put it in the cooler, everything was good, and then he took it and just threw it in his truck, and he drove back up here all the way, and the differential, because when I looked at it, it was brown. I go, look at, I mean, I cut it off. It's just like roast beef. And he goes, how can that be? And I didn't realize how much heat the differential will put off. So, I mean, in a perfect world, you'd throw a pallet and then set the meat on top of it. But you can certainly take a couple of logs, 3 or 4 logs across that rear axle where it's at, and just elevate it so that you get some wind blowing underneath it. If you have a topper, open the side windows. Open the front window. Anything that you can crack to get air to blow through there. Yeah. And then when you get to town, buy some ice. Yeah. Ice is, for what an animal costs to harvest anymore, and all the years of putting
energy and everything into it.
Yeah, I mean the preference point, the creep system. It's
take care of the critter once it's on the ground.
Yeah, you put a lot of effort into it, And if 5 guys go and they get 1 elk or 2 elk, and they're going to divide it between them. Yeah, you got to take the best care that you possibly can.
No, that's it. It's funny. We talk about this a lot on the actual harvest, and I have a very clean cut system when I do it, right? So let's just say I have an elk on the ground. I always go cut pine boughs, right? So I cut green pine needles, and I make a bed of pine boughs. Try to go 6-7 inches thick.
Keep it clean.
So it's clean, and more so, air flows through the pine boughs. So I make a nice pine bough, lay all your meat on your pine boughs. And it's funny because my buddies are like, man, I have a tarp, or I have this. And I'm like, I'd rather have pine boughs. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, airflow. So I literally do that, and then once I lay one down, put another pine bough on top. Flies don't come on, and I got great flow. Yes. And then by the time I'm done, everything's cooled off. Then by the time you pack up everything and you're ready to go, your meat's cool. And by that time, it's clean. There's no flies. You can put it in any game bag you want because it's already cooled off. It's quartered up. There's been airflow, and you're in a good situation.
Yeah, keep it off the dirt. You got to elevate it a little bit. And even if it's just like a sagebrush,
that's it.
You just walk over to that and lay it on there. The heat will dissipate.
That's it. I think the biggest thing with that, as we're kind of talking about that concept of things, I think separation and airflow is even more important than temperature. It can be fairly nice out.
Oh, yeah.
If you get separation and airflow, that's the biggest thing. And break it down. Again, if you don't know how to quarter or debone, that's something that you should learn. I think a lot of people associate quartering with backcountry hunting or remote hunting, when in reality, if you can be, once you get efficient with quartering, I do it with my trucks right there. I don't care if I'm a half mile off the road, the truck's there, or wherever I'm at. I quarter simply to break it down, get the airflow, get it separated, and it just helps that meat quality drastically.
100%. I mean, you could do it to an antelope at 70, 80 degrees. You'll see the heat come off him. You just put your hand on there. Once you get the skin off, it's starting to cool down already. And just a short period of time like that, it's going to help you a bunch.
Yeah.
Instead of just throwing it right in a cooler. I mean, I'll see guys, they'll take a big backpack, put a plastic bag in there, and then just start
shoving it,
cutting a million pieces, And I mean, that's a lot. It's touchy on us taking in boneless like that. And I told people, if a piece of meat ain't the size of a basketball, I can't cut steaks out of it. Because people would just, every 4 inches, they're making the size of baseballs and softballs is just all coming in. And I was like, what did you do? And then they throw every piece in the dirt. I mean, I took a guy one time, and I says, here, throw in this lug, it was there. I run the hose out there, and I says, here, wash it. You wash it. You'd see. It is not easy trying to get.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, if some animal comes in, they'll have some hair on there. You could throw it in a tank of water, and the hair will float off of it.
Okay.
It's pretty good like that. But when it's super dirty, no, you've already made a mess of this.
Yeah.
I got 99 guys out here that want to get in. You know, a lot of times they're sitting here and this mess is in front of them. And I'll go out there and I'll just say, I'm not taking it. It's just like we have the right to refuse you. You know, if I've got a bunch of, because my boners don't want that. We would compensate them, you know, say, we'll pay you extra like that. There, if there's a cleaning fee on there, they'll be like, I don't want it. It's hard on my knives. Yep. It's just, I get the table, then I got to clean the table. It's just, I don't want it. And so then when I would refuse one and he leaves, the guy that pulls in, he goes, oh, Jesus. I was thinking my animal's going to be right next to that one, you know, and that thing's a mess. I had a guy, honestly, brought me one in. He worked for a glass company. And when, you know, the safety glass again, there was like pieces all over in his truck, and he went hunting, shot the elk, skinned the elk, threw it in there, you know. So I come in and the guys are hanging it up, and I said, what are you doing? And he goes, yeah, he says, the guy goes, I told him, you hit it with that pressure washer, it'll just blast it off. I goes, or blast it in. And I says, I'm not taking it. And he said, oh, I'll just find somebody else. And I says, go.
Yeah, perfect.
I don't need, you know, I didn't take it. And he come back. I was the first animal that showed up in August. I'm like, oh boy, I'm happy. You know, here we go. We can start paying off the $1 million debt we got.
Yeah. And
by the end of the year, I was tired. I was grumpy. I wasn't going to win Mr. Congeniality contest. People like, one guy wrote I've never seen our website. Amy and Karen developed it. And I guess it's pretty and everything like that. And then they would read the comments, you know. And I says, why do you read? If I open the doors in the morning and there's a line to the dumpster from the street, we're good. We're good. That's what my worry is, taking care. Because once that animal came in, it's mine.
Yep.
And it's my responsibility to give you back a good product.
Yep.
And they would read the comments. And I made good friends, but I probably made a lot more enemies. And the one guy's comment, she goes, you got to read this one or look at. I goes, what? She goes, hey, he says, Steve was in true form today. He says, I can't believe Karen stays married to that guy. Come around the corner, kick the trash can, start cussing, and just stormed out of the room. And he goes, I'll be back. He says his sausage is good, but that guy's an ass. and I goes, there was another one.
I'll be back. But
one guy, he was there, and I go, we can't take him. And people have offered us money. You know, they'll say, bet. I mean, my ex-son-in-law, his cousin was there, and he goes, you got to take my deer. And he goes, I can't. We're full. And to me, full meant full. Yeah. That meant no matter who you are, we're full. And the guy, he says, tell Steve I'll give you $100. So he says, this guy's going to give us $100. We can split it. We can get it in. I goes, full is full. I says, we're just...
Okay, where are you going to put it?
Pouring ourselves out. You know, it doesn't look good. A customer, they're all the same. Yep. Everybody's important and stuff. Oh, geez. It just goes on and on. But this one guy, he says, you got to take it. I ain't got no place to put it. I goes, I can't say what I told him where I said, where do you want me to put it up? And I says, I can't. And then the next morning, Amy goes out to start the numbering system. She goes, you ain't going to believe who the first guy in line is. And I go, so you kidding? She goes, no, he's back, but he's the first one. And I says, we got him right where we want him. I says, they like the product.
I mean, that's it.
They don't like me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about me.
It's because you're responsible.
I tried hard.
Yeah.
I was going to say, in your defense, I mean, think about all that stuff going through an animal and then getting in those $100,000 machines, breaking stuff and running things that you shouldn't be running through there just because they want you to take it.
We messed around a little bit with goose, and the augers on the sausage machine used to be the sausage machine is all stainless steel. But the augers, something has to be soft to give. You know, otherwise you're going to wear out the whole machine if it's stainless on stainless. So they're like a carbon steel, the worm gears that go in through there. And so they move the product. They turn and they move the product up to the horn. And they were about $7,000. And we started messing with goose.
Yep.
Well, that's steel shot.
Oh yeah.
And so you run it up through there, bang, it busted it. And so I says, wow, that was just, 50 pounds of sausage ain't worth $7,000. So I says, we can't do it. So then my son goes, well, I can go through a goose. I can get the breasts. And you look, you bird hunt,
yeah.
you could say like, oh, there's a hole, there's a whatever. And we tried that one and still goofed up because a goose will get a BB in him, steel BB, and it heals.
Yeah, that's it.
You see it all the time when you're shooting birds. They don't drop and they live. So that now you're hitting steel that was in there from the previous season or whatever. And so then our next experiment was we went with the wand.
I was going to say, yeah, you got to do a metal detector.
So, because the goose breasts are only like 2-3 inches thick.
Yeah.
But we couldn't pick that up. After I think it was 3 sets of augers. I says, the way we do sausage, now there are people that do sausage, but they're using a different, a water system where it pushes it up.
Okay.
The machine, and then so you can put it out. The problem with that is, does the person eat it and then he hits a steel and he wants to sue you
because he broke a tooth or whatever.
I mean, I broke a tooth at a hamburger place once on a chicken sandwich.
Yep.
So I hit it, and my wife goes, what's that? And I go, whoa, I just hit a bone in my chicken sandwich. Yeah. And she goes, is it okay? I goes, yeah. And then I went home, and it fell out. So I called them up, and I said, at the time, it was $600, I believe, to get a crown back then. And they says, what do you want out of this? And I had to have a recorded conversation with them. And I goes, if I could get $600 to pay for my tooth, and they say, how do you feel about chicken? I goes, I like chicken. They go, can you still eat chicken? I goes, yes. I said, I know that you didn't put a bone in just to see me break my tooth. Stuff happens. Yeah. And it does all along.
Yeah.
We gave a guy back, I think it was on a sheep, a broadhead. And because I used to write a note with everybody, I'd say, hey, your broadheads. I mean, like in the beginning, there were some inferior broadheads. I don't want to say names, but the blades would fall out. Yeah. And I would say, like, you might look at it.
No kidding.
Okay. Yeah. There was one that had lock rings. Yeah. And when the rings would line up or stuff, or, when you used to have a certain broadheads that you put in, and they didn't have a real deep prong that really locked them on tight. When the impact would hit, the broadheads would come off. Or in the back, there's that little O-ring washer. If you hit, and it hit with a lot of force, if you were shooting 75 pounds,
cracked them.
You'd bust the washer. Well, then the broadheads slid back.
And popped out.
And they didn't cut.
Oh, okay.
And so my friend lost the best bull he's ever shot in his life because the broadheads...
Yeah, failed.
I mean, poking a 1/4-inch hole in an elk ain't going to kill him. Yeah. And so I would write everybody a note, you did a good job on a piece of locker paper. It was just the way I started, Yeah. We were whipping out, I think, 12 to 14 animals a day. Okay. And but you just learn like that. And so this guy, I sent him a broadhead, and he was... Boom, he come back, threw it on the counter, said, what's this? I goes, oh, it's a broadhead I found in your sheep. He goes, you gave me somebody else's sheep. There was only a couple employees. And I goes, you're the only sheep to come in. I says, I processed your sheep. I hit this. And he goes, I shot it with the gun. And I goes, yeah. Well, somebody else shot it with the bow before you did. So crazy things happen. Yeah. I had a guy shot. He missed the ram. He's shooting a recurve, and then he goes up there because he's looking for his arrow, and he's looking, and he's seen blood. And he says, I know I missed the sheep. And he starts following it, and he killed another ram.
No kidding.
He shot over the top, and you know how rams will be 3-4 rams.
Oh, yeah.
He shot over the hill, hit a ram, and killed it.
No kidding.
Yeah, and he was happy. He said, I got a ram.
He got one.
Shooting around corners to get one.
Right?
There's some, you hear, when I started out, I had this big book of Colorado, and of all the, the roads, and I would, so where'd you get it? These guys won't tell their wife where they hunt. Oh, if you go up to Buford and you take a left on this road, and I'm listening, and when they leave, I'd whip out that book
and write it down.
And I would put potential areas, I had so many X's and O's. I could live to be 200. I never would have got to them all. It was funny. But they would, where. And then Scott, when he worked for me, he don't even hunt. He don't fish. He don't go to the mountains. And he goes, I learned it was easier when they said, you know where Red Dirt's at? And he said, I just said, yeah. Well, you take that left. Oh, yeah. I've been
exactly.
there. Just agree with him.
I've definitely done that before.
You can get the story.
Otherwise, they're going to take out the atlas and be like, I'll show you. You're just like, I know where it's at. We're good.
I know. I don't know why they would surrender information to me. It was just like, but they did. They want to tell. Well, they just come home. They want to tell their story.
Everybody wants to tell the story.
Oh, gosh.
Especially to you.
Oh, gosh. Do we have stories? I mean, for lifetimes.
That's awesome. That's incredible.
It was I'll tell you what, though, talking about sportsmen, you talk about the rock solid people.
Yeah.
I mean, we're grossing over $1 million a year, and we're coming up with 1 or 2 bad checks.
Yeah.
Because my accountant said, well, no, I don't even know when it was that we started taking credit cards. I didn't want to take credit cards.
Yeah.
And he said, why don't you take credit cards? I says, if a guy comes to me and he's got $200, I don't want him to spend money he doesn't have.
Yeah.
And he goes, you're not their daddy. He said, you got to look past that. And the minute we went to credit cards, the processing went through the roof because people could do that. Every hunter has stash. They all got stash, right? So when they come and they pick up their animal, they say, hey, look at, I'm going to give you $200, but on the receipt, just put that, because if my wife really knows what it costs, she's going to get mad. And he goes, but they'll eat it this way.
Oh, yeah.
I hunted with a guy from Remington years ago, and I turkey hunted with him, and he shot a bull up in the northwest corner, and when I was talking to him later, he goes, oh, he said I had to take it to somebody up there because it was hot, which I understand thoroughly, So he took it there, and then he told his wife the next week, he said, I got to go pick the meat up. It'll take a day. She goes, why? He goes, well, because I had it processed up there. I got to drive up there. And she goes, okay. Brought it home, makes a batch of chili, and hair floats to the top. And she says, come here, Mr. Wizard. She goes, look at that. There's hair in the burger. And she goes, you can eat this whole elk yourself. And it was funny. I can't remember what this guy done. He worked for the government, and he on the 5th year, 6th year, he said, I've never had a hair, and I was hard, and it's tough. I mean, you can wash them off, pick them off. I tell everybody at every stage, try to, please, that's embarrassing, And the guy said, I've been coming here 5 years, and I've never had a hair. And he goes, that's incredible. So we were vacuum packaging. So I put a hair in a vacuum package, and I put a little note in there, and I goes, here's your hair. And I gave it to him.
It's the truth, though. I've never had hair. I mean, again, and I think that's one of the things that I love it. And this is bad on your behalf, but I love the stories of the turnaround. Like all the angry stuff that I'll see online that I get on there, and I'm like, hey, I'll try to support you, especially now on social, right? Back in the day, somebody was mad. Their group of 5 people heard about it. Now people they'll get on all the I Hunt Colorados, and they'll be like, I can't believe it. Steve turned me away. And I'm the first one to hop on there, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm appreciative of it. Like, I love it that the game care is so quality. You know what I mean? I love that I can pull up and I can eat off the floor in the shop, right? Like I love that things are clean.
Well, people say like, how do I know you are and stuff like that? And I'll say, for the volume of stuff that we turned out, and I believe that all inspections are public record.
Yep.
And I said, go look at your processor and see how many times did he get written up.
Yeah.
Some restaurants will go meticulous all the time, and some will have 500 things against them. Yeah, reviews against them by the State Department. I said, look me up. I said, just look me up.
That's a great thing. I've never heard of that or thought of that,
Because I can't affect. I don't write them.
That's it. Yeah,
it's our inspector.
That's not marketing. That's
our
it.
Inspector does them. And in the weight that this is. I had a police officer when I was at from Adams County when I was at Smokies. And he comes and he goes, I got an antelope. Can you process it? And I said, sure. And he brought a pillowcase. and I looked in it, and it was in there. It was a fawn. It's skinned out. It's in the pillowcase. And I says, under one condition, you watch me process it. Because it was so little.
Oh, yeah. You know? 7 pounds of meat.
It probably. So I cut it up. I make him 2 roasts out of the hind legs. I take the 2 front legs and tie them together. And then the loins, which was like 2 hot dogs. And I said, you cook them up. And I put it in a Pepsi carton. I said, here you go. He goes, wow. He goes, what am I going to tell my wife? And he goes, if I didn't see this, I wouldn't believe it.
That's it.
Because I said, yeah, because here you are. I says, you owe me $10. Take it home. That's yours now.
Yep.
It's crazy. And a lot of processors they'll do remote processors. They don't want to go through the expense of a scale. Like we have rail scales, several rail scales, and they're 6,000 or some shit like that. I want to weigh it in front of you because you need to know.
Oh, 100%.
I know. I've had guys call me and said, how much to do my cow elk weighs about 600 pounds. And that quote, I told the guy, it'll be free. He goes, why would it be free? I goes, guy ain't never seen a 600-pound cow elk. And he said, yeah, me and my buddy could barely load it. And I'm like, you can lift 300 pounds deadlift and standing in your truck? I goes, come on, you're tired. You were excited. The adrenaline's pumping. I can get it.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it,
nothing. I mean, this is the greatest conversation because the same thing. When you go online, I got shorted by meat, and I'm like, really? Like, they're like, I only got this much. I'm like, what was your hanging weight? I don't know. It was bigger than that, though.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? Everybody in the world believes that their bull is, 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pounds on the hoof, and they think, oh, if it's 1,200 pounds on the hoof, it'd probably lose 300-400 pounds of bone and guts. But yeah, I should have 600-700 pounds of meat. I mean, it's like a buffalo. That's probably the biggest shocker.
Right.
You kill a big buffalo in your head, you're like, I'm gonna get 1,000 pounds of meat, and none of it yields what you think it would.
To shoot 1,000-pound buffalo, I've shot 1,000-pound buffalo, and I think he was like 14 years old.
Yeah,
they're big old bulls. I mean,
and what do you get meat wise off it?
If it's clean and not shot in a bad place, you can get 55 to 60% yield.
Okay.
You mean the rest of it is waste like that?
Yep.
If you buy a cow, a side of beef, and it hangs for 14 days, it loses 10% in evaporation just in that. And then when you run it through the saw and do the trimming, you lose another 10%.
Okay.
So you're losing all the time. But I mean, on an antelope, a big buck weighs somewhere in the 60 pounds.
Okay.
64, 66 pounds.
Okay.
Occasionally you'll see a 70.
On a pronghorn, yielded meat.
Yeah. No.
Oh.
Wait, after it's skinned.
Okay.
What we're looking at.
Yep.
Elk like a spike elk, they weigh 225 to 235 all
skinned
day
out.
long. I'll walk out to the truck,
that's great.
and there'll be a spike, and the guy goes, what do you think that weighs? I goes, 227. And it'd be, wow, he's like the fat man at the circus. And I'm like, no, it's because that's what they weigh.
That's just what they weigh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a 1.5-year-old animal when they're skinned. No, cut off at the knees, no hide,
knees,
no head, none of that stuff. When you get a bull that weighs 500 pounds, you got a good one.
Okay.
And I see my biggest, I used to when I was there, the biggest ones, they'll come out of the front range.
Yep.
And then down south.
They're not migrating for winter. They're just a big front. Yeah.
Well, and you're shooting them at muzzle loading.
Yep.
That's when their weight's there.
Yep.
Me, Karen, Ryan, and we all shot 3 bulls in this front range one year, and every one of them was just like 505, 515. Okay. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And those are big elk.
A huge elk, yeah.
Hanging elk.
Yeah.
Like that, but people think that they weigh
so much more than they do. I agree.
A tremendous amount.
And that's the same thing when you talk about like packing them out. Everybody's like, I packed this much. And I'm like, dude, it doesn't weigh that whole. Just when you talk to guys. Certain guys and certain weights, and they throw that around.
Well, your processors don't want to spend $6,000 on a rail scale.
Yep.
So what they do is they say, we process antelope are $100 and deer are $150, whatever it is. And the reason is they just bracket them because they don't want to put the cost of a scale in.
Yep.
And the scale is actually their friend because when they come in, I had some guys. They made me unload the animal, and I gave it back to them that night. I mean, they called me and they said, "How come our deer? You put it down, it weighs more than your elk?" I goes, "Because it did."
Yeah.
And it was just when I had the original building, and I was so tired, and I answered the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I would answer the phone 11 o'clock at night when it was in the beginning stages like that. I had to back out all the animals. I got them there too, and then I says, "You know what? You ain't happy with me and this elk now." And I just took it, threw it on my shoulder, and flopped it in their car. I goes, "I'm going to do your deer." But I says, "This monster elk, you could just do yourself. Take it home." Another friend I'm sure I made for life, if he's listening, because you weigh it in front of them, then they know.
They know. That's it.
There is no arguing. If your deer weighs 122 pounds, somewhere around 60 pounds is what you're going to get back.
Yep.
And usually half of that. That jerky I gave you this morning, that old-fashioned natural jerky, when I started, I used to make that.
Yep.
Well, I make it out of the top round because the grain runs the right direction. And people got to where, like, I want my whole antelope into that natural jerky. You could be tedious yourself and do it, but to make $1, it was impossible.
Absolutely.
So actually, the ground-informed jerky was a byproduct when my dad had a federal plant.
Okay.
We used to make jerky for King Super, 7-Eleven. We actually had an account in Japan.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, our establishment number was 4192, and we went that. We were in Pace Warehouse.
Okay.
It was prior to Sam's Club and Costco.
Okay.
And we used to sell pulled pork and chickens and all that stuff. And we tried going that federal route, but there was no money in it.
Yeah.
It's so competitive. The jerky, again, we were selling at 7-Eleven, and you say, wow, they're getting $20 a pound for jerky. But you got to pay a distributor that gets you into 7-Eleven, and then a route guy that's running the jerky to 7-Eleven. And then the worst case we seen was where they put the jerky, it either got stoled, or if they were putting it where the sun was hitting it, it was creating condensation.
Oh, okay.
Then you have to buy back the jerky.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, we were chasing a dream, and the wild game became a spin-off.
No kidding. Oh, that's crazy.
We had the facility.
Yeah.
And then I start dabbling with it. Me and Karen went down to the old Kurigan Hall.
Okay.
And we rented a table upstairs where it was like $25 for a table up there, and I shot 2 or 3 animals that year, me and her, and we made smoked sausage, a few things, and people come up there and ate, and I gave them a flyer I made and went to the press company, had them make me 100 copies. I said, get 10% off this year or next year, and this is where I'm at. And off that return flyers that year, I think it was like $40,000 off of that, and that show, and I go, holy cow! So we have to expand and do some things there, and we went back and forth, and I went to my dad. Smokies opened in 1969. They stayed in business 50 years, and I said, I'd like to buy the plant from you because I want to build on this wild game. And he said, no, it's not for sale. You can inherit it. But so that's when I ventured out, and I had to go to a pre-existing facility to get in, because like Arvada, I had to take receipts to Arvada, say I want to continue it as a wild game processing plant. Like right now, if you went to Arvada and said, I'm building a plant next to Steve, you ain't.
Okay.
The city, they're not going to let you in there.
That's crazy. Okay.
You have to find some
and that's how it started, though.
It was
commercial in a wild game.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
I wait a year or two, and then I go back to the show, and boom, we jumped on more and more. I mean, but actually, when you pulled up to Smokies, on the door was my home phone number. And I'd live by Hidden Lake, which wasn't far away, and I'd say, I have people call me 10 o'clock. Hey, I'm down here. I got a deer. I go do it.
That's
and
crazy.
then when I built, when I bought the building in Old Town Arvada and started there, I mean, I used to sleep in the attic.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
It was, there was no heat up there.
Yeah.
I had a sleeping bag in a cot. And I didn't have the money to pay people.
Yeah.
I'd go, when we closed, I had a refrigerated area along that big smoker.
Yeah.
And that was, I think it's 25 or 30 feet of rail that's all refrigerated. Because when it come to skinning, I'd go down there 10, 11 at night.
Yeah.
And then that's when I'd go in there and skin. And I couldn't pay somebody to skin.
Yeah.
I didn't have $20 to pay him.
Yeah.
It was
Just started off.
it was sad.
But look what it became.
It gave me a good life.
That's
that I could run around.
You've traveled the country. You've shot everything. You've seen a lot of cool stuff.
Been to New Zealand, Argentina, and
Africa,
and British Columbia. I've got 3 of the good sheep, and Alaska. I still go to Alaska, every year. I started that in my early 20s, and it made me that. And the people that I've met are they're solid people.
Yeah.
Hunters and. They're just solid people.
it.
You deal with them. I mean,
yeah, we've hung out at the shop, and somebody comes walking up, and I'm like, I recognize him. You're like, oh, that's Freddie Dodge. That's this. That's.
Yeah.
I mean, just the relationships and people, and yeah, you've got to see it all.
they're solid people. They're not the riffraff of life. We don't deal with. That's why back when I was talking on checks, my accountant says I got people that got restaurants that have thousands and thousands of dollars in bad checks. Because they stiff them, and stuff like that. And I goes, no, I'm dealing with good people.
That's it.
They're really people you can take to the bank with you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I made great friends, but I wished I could have met everybody on a personal basis and get to know their story, because they're dang good people. Hunters are good people.
That's awesome. I love it. All right, as we wrap it up, I have a couple last questions for you. One, we talked earlier, 92 tons of sausage. What kind of seasonings would you go through? I just want the weight. I want people to understand the volume that was going through there. I remember talking to you in spring, right? I'm like, Steve, let's go fishing. You're like, I can't. I got to mix seasonings. I'm like, what do you mean you got to mix seasoning? You're like, I got a semi coming or a truck. I'm like, what? When you talk about mixing, you have tons of this.
Yeah, the blends are things that we came up with.
Yep.
I gave you a pack of Italian sausage today. You've probably never had that Italian sausage, because I make it at home.
Yeah.
And it's out of pork butts. But when you eat it, you're probably going to call me and say, wow. Yeah. Because I don't want to sound egotistical and stuff, but it's got good flavor.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I started off, the spice company came to me and they said, well, you put this 8 ounces of spice in 25 pounds of meat and you're going to make sausage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, no, dude. I got to put 19 pounds to make 18 pounds of sausage. The spice was crazy, but I do at least 30,000 pounds.
30,000 pounds of spices.
It made us unique.
Yep.
And when I started off, it took me all summer. We'd set 5 buckets there.
Yep.
And we'd put 12 ounces of salt in this one and this one and this one, and then 6 ounces of black, and so on and so forth, and tie them up in a knot. And it got to the point with the volume, we got they make ribbon blenders and a big blender that we have, and then you'll make, it'll concoction that's going to make 1,000 pounds of jerky, and then you take it and cut it. You're going kind of reverse. Then you'll cut it down into 7-pound bags or 6-pound bags, whatever you want, like that. But there's ways we process the spices that we cross-check. Once we made a volume, we had to make sure that we were coming out. So if we put 900 pounds of product in, we had 900 pounds out. Because if you didn't, you were just like, we forgot 50 pounds of something.
Yeah.
And then you try to troubleshoot it, because the problem will only magnify.
Yep.
And, when you make sausage and it didn't have 50 pounds of fennel in it, you're like, where did we go? Where did we go wrong? And, it's nightmarish, but we would have to do it when we were closed.
Yep.
Because you have to, no chit chat, no talking, no music. Yeah, you had to be. And there were 3 of us, and then each one would check each one's work, so that we could catch the problem right away, within one little batch that we would do. But the price of that, buying a pre-made batch of Italian sausage, or what you can make it for, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I remember one time I needed to buy nutmeg at the store, and I went and bought the little can, and I figured it out. It was like a $4 or $5 a pound spice that I bought. When you're buying it in the little 0.78 ounce can, it was $92 a pound. So I'm like, And that's a whole nother market that a person could go into if she wanted to pursue it. Yeah. Personally, you get tired, but a person could blend them spices because we buy quality spices.
You would go to the source and travel for it.
Yeah. But when you're buying in such volume, when you say, I need extra salt. Yeah. Thousands and thousands of pounds of salt. When I was buying, it was like 9 cents a pound. Okay. So, but when you go to the store and you buy the little blue thing of salt, what is it now? $3-4?
Probably $5 now.
And it's. I talked to a guy from McCormick Spice, and he told me, he says, we spend more. It costs more for the packaging. Yeah. Than what we're actually putting it in there. So it was the marketing. So if you could. There's people, not everybody goes to Steve's or wants to go to Steve's, but they want good breakfast sausage. So that'd be something that if she wanted to tap into it, but I think you lose so much energy. It's like you put a lot into your business and you're here for that very reason. The day doesn't start at 8 and end at 5. That's when you don't get nothing done. It's you're getting your main stuff done at 3-4 in the morning, and at night.
That's it.
I've sat up 24/7 until the sun's coming up. You're like, it's just easier to go like you. If you just like, I'm just going to go down to the shop. I don't care if it's 2.
That's it. Doesn't matter.
You just get up. I found out it was easier to do that. So it's with that effort you put into it. I don't think that Amy has enough. I didn't at the end of the season. I never tapped into it. Yeah. But there's a whole nother market out there where you can sit down and say like, hey, if you want to make, I've converted my recipes down to like 10-pound recipes. And my jerky, I make 3-pound batches now. Yep. We were making, there's 70 times 6, 420 pounds of jerky that they can slice and put on the screens in an hour. Okay. And if I make
an hour, 700 pounds an hour.
It goes into the oven, and then when they close, they knock it off, and somebody packages it. That takes me, I make 3 pounds of jerky now at home. I got a little bitty miniature vacuum tumbler, and I put it on my little Traeger, and I rotate the screen there. And it takes me 8 hours to make 3 pounds of, 3 pounds raw meat. Yeah. When it comes out, it's that. Yeah. That dried Italian I gave you today, I make 1 pound at a time. I'm like, I love it. It keeps me entertained.
I mean, that's it. That's the full circle. As we wrap this up, we're running out of time. I mean, literally from the start to building again, like nationally. No, I've seen people from all over the country come to Process Game with you. I mean, everywhere. Now your daughter's running it, and you just handed me a fresh loaf of bread, making custom meat, and you started from the beginning. And now you're winding it down.
I brought him a loaf of sourdough that I kicked out this morning, but I watered my garden this morning. I mean, it's in me. It's that's what I am. Yep. And that's it. Right now, when I shoot animals, Dad, she goes, we can get it done in a matter of minutes. And I said, no, when you close at 5 or 6, I'm going to come down, and it takes me forever. Now with my condition, I go slower, but I enjoy it.
You love it. That's it. That's the biggest thing. Like I remember talking to you. You were overseas trying spices and checking casings, and because that's your passion. You put your passion into it, and that's what it takes.
It wasn't a job for me. It was that. It went to the next level. I can say like at the end when it was so big, it was like I opened the door and I felt like I grabbed the tail of a dragon. Yeah. And I just tried to hold on. Yep. Because I used to run it, and at the end it ran me. Yeah. And it was overwhelming. And I apologize to all the people that, man, if you tied your tail to mine, you'd have been a grumpy old man too. Come December, January, I mean, my friends would tell me, man, you look bad. Yeah. Trevor last year.
I get that all the time. I love it. My friends are like, you look terrible today. I'm like, thanks. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's where I think, I can't remember what Trevor, I think he said he lost 24 pounds.
Yeah, I believe that.
Last year. and it's
Just working 24/7.
yeah. You work and
There's never an off.
you don't
It's just there.
No, I had a guy come up wanted to open a plant in Texas, and he worked with me, and he said, "Where's the chair?" And I go, "We don't have none."
Yeah.
And I never had a break room. I mean, you didn't sit down there. I said, "There ain't no chair.
Yeah.
What the hell? You don't sit here.
Yeah.
You eat your burrito. It's just right there with your bloody hands, and you're that's where you eat, and you're happy if you get to eat that burrito because you start at 6. The next thing you look up, it's 2.
That's it.
You're like, oh, where did the day go?
24/7.
But you know all about this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're not here because
Nope.
you put in 8 hours a day.
It's in your blood. It's
No.
just what you are.
Yeah, well, success, doctors, lawyers, anybody that's gone from nothing to something,
Yep.
I'd say 60, 70 hours is a quick week for them.
That's it. That's 100%. Because it never turns off.
No, you get more done before you open or after you close. That's
it. Like the guiding people say that all the time, like, oh, it's a long day. I'm like, you have no idea. That's just where it started. And you saw the brief part. You didn't see the paperwork, the business, the start, the prep, nothing.
Yeah, getting permits to bring hay into the national forest or bid concessions. It's like you're paying to fish on all these lakes and insurance and liability. And
It's a big monster.
oh,
All right, we're going to wrap it up with that. I started this segment, and I'm going to say it again. We are here literally with the man, the myth, the legend, and somebody it is an honor to call a great friend, Steve from the world-renowned Steve's Meat Market. I hope you enjoyed that, talking to all things about that. I know I find it extremely interesting. Steve, thank you so much for joining me
you
today.
bet. Thanks for having me up here. Love it. I hope somebody gathered something out of this.
I love it. Again, guys, this is Steve. I'm Nate Zielinski. You have Chris over there behind the camera. Again, this is the Source Podcast, officially brought to you by Jiffy Ice Fishing. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you so much, Jiffy, for all you do in the ice fishing world. We're excited you're here. Stay tuned for the next episode.